so much, everyone. I told you we are not yet done, and you are in for it, because I've got to you brand new faces on this special edition of Channel Television Independence Day Conversation. And tonight, I'm now being joined by a former lawmaker, a political activist, Dr. Usman Bugaje. Thank you so much, Dr. Bugaje, for joining us here.
My great pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. And I have your friend right there, one of foremost voices who fought against the military, who also thought that Nigeria could be a better place, singing solidarity songs with his very good boss, Gani Fawemi. Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, is also live for us on this very wonderful day on the 65th anniversary of Nigeria's independence. Gentlemen, eminent Nigerians, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight on the program. The focus of our conversation in this part of the segment is independence reflections and the thought on what works. And like I did with the earlier segment, without mincing words, we needed to go straight to the point. What is the problem? How do we solve it? Now, with a reflection of our independence, and I'll come to you first, Dr. Bugaje. With in your own perspective, your own view, you look back at our 65 years of independence. Would you say it's more of going forward, 10 steps forward, 20 steps backwards? Are we better off under the civilian rule? What exactly, in your own view, do you think has been our major problem?
Our major problem is the problem of most African countries. And I think we need a context here. The major problem of most post-colonial African countries are basically three. How do we share power? How do we share wealth? And how do we manage our diversity? These are the major challenges, because the states that were created by colonial enterprise were not real states. The borders are artificial. The structures were designed to exploit. They were not designed for stability. And therefore we have to, as post-colonial elite, now begin to see how can we get a system that can actually work for us. And in this, there is a challenge. The challenge is, because of the education we have received, we still look at the West as the ultimate in perfection. And therefore we still go back to them. Even as we are all very aware that the relationship between the West and Africa has gone through three major stages. First, our relationship was that of slavery, followed next by colonization, and followed now with a neo-colonial exploitative arrangement, where we don't get the real prices for our goods, where we don't determine the rules, where we don't even determine the value of our currency. The world institutions created by the same imperial West are still the ones that are. So if we understand the context and we understand the challenge, we'll be in a better position to. But let me also give a ray of hope. Nigeria is not the only country going through this. And it's not the only country that has gone through this and came out much stronger. There are countries that have gone through worse, and they were able to transform themselves. And so there is hope, if only because what is obtained today is not sustainable. There is no way this corruption, this stealing, this stupidity, this kind of recklessness of these politicians can sustain. It will have to come to a ground. And it's already coming to a ground. The budget for 2025 has not yet been implemented. We are already thinking of the 2026 budget. You can see how the whole country is running aground in the hands of some of the most incompetent people. So let me come back to the issue. The problem basically for me is that the Nigerian elite have not yet arrived at a consensus as to what country do they want to build. I'm taking this point from countries like Singapore, from countries like even Malaysia.
India tried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a consensus as a country. So this is where we want to be in the next 10 years.
So we need the likes
years.
of you, elite consensus, a community of eminent Nigerians to come together to say, this is where we need to go.
Precisely.
10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 100 years down the line.
In doing so, Sheun, we have to also look at the projections. We are not just going to do it in the dark. We have to look at the projections. Riwane was given an idea of population. I'm not sure he has looked at the projections of the United Nations. In the next 5 years, this country is estimated to be 300 million. In 2050, which is 25 years from now, this country is going to be 25 to 30 million, which will make it the third largest country after India and China. The real work ahead of the elite is how do we find food, infrastructure, jobs? How do we sustain this population? Now the point is, if we as elite have not yet come together to even have a consensus, this is how this politics will continue to divide us, will continue to impoverish the nation until the nation comes to a ground.
So then
it's so difficult.
Yeah, some people need to sit down, structure, craft the way we need to.
We don't need a constitutional amendment to come as citizens to decide.
So a political leadership needs to take that decision and make it a policy.
I don't trust the kind of governments we have. Anytime there is a national conference, it is an agenda of the government in power. I would rather civil society, experts, academics, community leaders, religious leaders come together and say, hey, wait a minute, we have a country which we want to build. And this is where we want this country to go. And we will use metrics. We're not going to just say, okay, we want to improve agriculture. No. We look at the deficit. In 2023, we have 30 million metric tons of deficit in grains alone. Right. So how do we make sure that in the next 5 years, we have bridged that? What is our yield? The yield for tomatoes, for example, is 5 to 6 metric tons per hectare. The average, the African average is 20. How do we even get to that African average? So if you work scientifically with metrics, because you are in the 21st century, right, you have to be competitive.
Give me a moment, sir. Let me bring in your very good friend, Mr. Femi Falana. Mr. Falana, thank you so much for your patience. Do you agree with Dr. Bugaje? Where do we go from here? And my question was very pointed about reflections. Where did we get it wrong? And from your own perspective, are we in a bigger trouble than we were when a few years ago?
So I think, with respect to Dr. Bugaje, I think we may need to go back a bit to pre-independence. Between 1951 and 1959, when you have what might call the first indigenous rule in the country, the politicians at the time belonged to the First Republic. Even the Second Republic, the political parties that were set up were likely ideological. They knew what they wanted and they were competing among themselves. Political parties then were not simply vehicles for acquiring power. They were acquiring power with responsibilities. By 1960, what the British colonial regime handed over to Nigeria was what you might call flag independence. The colonial structure was left largely intact. But then, the first set of politicians really made the best use of it before the system collapsed. And for those who romanticize the parliamentary system of government. Why did you run to problems? In 1966, it was alleged that the regions were too powerful. And so in 1975, when the late Murtala Mohammed, or the Murtala Mohammed regime, Murtala Mohammed Obasanjo regime, all members of the political, in other words, the military wing and the civilian wing of the Nigerian ruling class agreed that we have to decide the parliamentary system. We have to embrace the presidential system. So, Chief Rotimi Williams was the head of the Constitution Review Committee. The late Professor Ben Wagweze, many of them were in the Constitution Drafting Committee. And all of them, 47 of them agreed. We are going the American way. Without the culture, the political culture of America, without the discipline of the political class in America, ever, two people in the TDC, the late Dr. Bahasman and Dr. Olusegun Ashoba, I mean the historian, not the journalist. The two of them wrote a minority report. What you are to put to the country cannot work. And there was a mix of the parliamentary system and the presidential system. And there's no way you can concentrate powers in the hands of the ruling party. The ruling party must share power with the other constituencies. And that was what my learned colleague said earlier, Clem Nwanko, about proportional representation of let winner takes all. That is part of the problem of this forum. Now, without an ideological orientation, yes, corruption will continue, impunity will continue, restlessness will continue. So in the Second Republic, when we have 5 major political parties, you can predict what the PRP and the UPN will vote for, as opposed to what the NPP and later GNPP will vote for. So what do we have today? There is no dissenting voice in the House of Reps of 360 members, Senate of 109 members, because that is why it's so convenient to move from one party to the other and abandon the people that put in office. So we need to go back. Where did you get it wrong? Now, if people are now embracing, we must go back to 1963 Constitution. Why did it collapse? It's like state police. Dr. Bugaje will recall, you have the state police win before independence. In the government of the 50s, whereby members of the PRP were constantly and consistently harassed and intimidated by the ruling in the West. It was the same, whereby you could be sleeping in your room. And the time you wake up in the morning, there's a dead body in your compound. And the police, the local police will come to arrest you and have you charged with murder. So when people are the president of the police, we must know when the rain began to beat us. Why did you abandon state police? Abandon state police. In the 1979 Constitution and the 1999 Constitution, decreed that we are going to have one federal police that will be managed by the president and the 36 state governors. What have we have seen since 1979? It's a total control of policing in Nigeria by the president, whereas the constitution says there shall be a Nigerian police council constituted by the president, IG, chairman police council, 3 of them, and a 36 state governor. So in that body, majority are state governors, but that body never meets. So we must look at, and when people talk about structure, between 1999 and now, through the courts, a lot of cases have been won that have taken powers from Abuja to the state and local government. But what have we done with this power? For instance, the federal government, because the Olusegun Obasanjo military administration inserted 4 decrees in the 1979 Constitution, including the Land Use Decree. They now call it an act, Land Use Act. So the federal government wanted to be controlling land. But in the case of Concha, Attorney General of Anambra said, the Supreme Court said no. The regime only to put that in the Constitution, Land Use Act, in order to make it difficult to amend it. It does not mean that the president shall be in charge of land outside the federal capital territory. Okay. So next to oil, for many states, it is the rents gathered from land that constitute substantial part of, what you might call Nigeria. Secondly, before then, Babangida enacted, the military president, General Babangida, enacted a decree in 1992 that took over the control of development in the country. If you wanted to approve your plan to build a house, you will have to go to the federal secretariat in every state. So the federal government was in charge. Lagos state government went to court. The position was 4 to 3 justices of the Supreme Court, which ruled in favor of state. But apart from Abuja, the president cannot approve, through the minister of the FCT, cannot approve any building, cannot get involved in development control in any part of the country. And my name can recite no less than 10 cases where powers have been taken from Abuja and given to the state. What has happened today? Those powers have turned some governors into emperors. So we must
Mr. Falana, let me put you on the spot. Let me put you on the spot.
Yeah.
And I know this might be a bit difficult because it may never happen. But I mean, let's assume this happened in our dreams. If you have one singular power to be able to put this country in the right shape, in the right mode for it to function well, because this is one of the most group of people that could be most prosperous in this world. No natural disaster. All year round, there are crops that we can plant and harvest. We have every state and every region of the country have its own natural resources, so we can thrive. But yet, why are we lagging? Why are we not productive? Where are we not reaching our potential 65 years later? So, Mr. Falana, if you have one singular power to mold Nigeria in the shape you want, in the ilk that you like, what would you mold? What would you do? How would you mold it?
Again, as rickety as the 1999 Constitution is, it says in section 224, every political party, the aims and objects of every political party shall align with chapter 2 of the Constitution. That is the area where we are talking of what you might call national governments. Governments in which all Nigerians will have a sense of belonging. Section 14. The government of Nigeria shall be anchored on democracy, popular democracy, not democracy decided by the church. I mean, you have had an election. You know what the result announced by INEC are tentative until the courts, 3 people, 3 judges, 5 or 7 of them announce the winners of election. Three, you go on to talk about section 16. That the economy of Nigeria shall be controlled by Nigerians, not a few people. Then the next comment is also planning another privatization. And they are going to give the access of our country, fire by the country. The few people, the few capitalists, or rather agents of capitalism. And Colonial was talking about some of the agencies, NMPC, MPA, what do you call it? NIMASA and the rest of them. Now, they are run like federal government parastatals. They are not. So they are federation parastatals. They are owned by the country. All the airports of the country, the federal airports, are owned by the country. They were set up either by the colonial regime or the military regime. When we didn't have these three tiers of, government, it was one central government, and they were using the resources of the country to set up Kano Airport, Lagos Airport, and the rest of them. The military, Abuja Airport, and it's not the new airport. If you go around the NNPC, I understand now the shares of the NNPC will be managed by the Federal Ministry of Finance. Where the people got the power? Now we have 49% shares in what do you call it? LNG. LNG was set up in 1989 by the military general with the resources of the country. Now today, in the last 20 years, 21.5 billion dividends that they pay as they pay to the NNPC. Destined for the federation attack. But NNPC now diverted the money. We still believe that NNPC is sold by the federal government. No. The states, the local government, are joint owners with the federal government of these agencies and many others. But in the next campaign for restructuring, these very serious issues are never considered. So if we are going to run the country, I'm not as hopeful as Dr. Bugaje, because it must be anchored on what we call consensus, at least elite consensus, whereby regardless of political, regional, ethnic, whatever, considerations, I say at least this would be the minimum standard for our country. We're having 4-year development plan. Today, our economic plans are dictated by imperialist institutions or British institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. They tell us your currency is overvalued, you must go and secretly devalue your currency. So these are the problems.
Give me a moment, Mr. Falana. Quickly, Dr. Bugaje. The same question I asked Mr. Falana. If you had that single opportunity to mold Nigeria the way you want, in the kind of structure that you think will work, what would you mold?
It's very clear to me, Sean. The major problem we have been having is our leadership recruitment process. It has been calibrated to produce or to recruit people without any reference to character, without any reference to competence, without any reference to courage. Therefore, all I need to do is to recalibrate the leadership recruitment process to prioritize those features that will bring the kind of leadership that has transformed Singapore, that has transformed China, that has transformed all the countries that we see in our contemporary times. And specifically, the moment you create a criteria where you say, for example, you need people with character, you need people with competence, you need people with the courage of conviction, The moment you set that out, more than 50% of these people who are, walking the corridors of fire will simply be flushed out. You would bring in people, and Nigeria has large resources for this, within and outside the country, in the diaspora. We have very competent people. Go to the US, most of the competent doctors are from this country. Go to any other country that you find Nigerians, you find them doing very well. Why can't we come and fix this country? Simply because the leadership recruitment process favors crooks and people who have because there is no criteria at all. I mean, I keep making this point. The criteria in the Constitution is a criteria for eligibility. It is not a criteria for, it's just that you're eligible.
Standard
but there is no criteria for suitability. and this is the job of the political parties. And I have said it severally, the political parties we have today, they have neither content, they have no conscience, they have no courage. They are no good for anything. And look at what is happening. What makes it easier for people to leave APC and go to PDP, APC, is because they are all empty. What is it that really differentiates them? It's difficult for a Democrat to move into the Republican Party. It's difficult for the Conservatives to move into Labour. In fact, families, 3, 4, 5 family lines down, you find in the same party. Because there is conviction, there is content, there is something that defines you. Here is just simply a name. It's simply empty. This is something that we have to do.
Give me a moment. There is a perspective from South Africa because there are Nigerians living there. And Nigeria played a lot of role in that country. But in this story, let me bring to Nigerians the perspective from South Africa. Our correspondent there files in this report.
Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people, diverse in culture, language, and religion. The idea of federalism is meant to reflect that diversity, but many argue that in practice, Nigeria's system is far from truly federal. At independence in 1960, all existing regions had real autonomy. They controlled their resources and contributed taxes to the center. That arrangement encouraged competition and growth. However, years of military rule changed everything. Power was then centralized and states became dependent on the federal purse. The 1999 Constitution further entrenched federal dominance. From oil revenues to security, the federal government holds the key. And for some Nigerians, that's the root of the problem.
As citizens, we can shift our focus to state. I think the military era of centralization have pushed us to focus more at the center, the federal government. So the limited accountability and limited sense of responsibility, and I'm saying this in quote and I'm using them cautiously, that we even have from federal government is because citizens are focusing at the center. But we have abandoned the state. The amendment of the Constitution is the way to go to strengthen our local government system.
In the Niger Delta, where Nigeria derives its oil wealth, calls for resource control have been consistently loud, particularly with the 13% derivation principle given as compensation to all rich states for resource extraction.
After 1966, it was 1%, 3%, all kinds of 0% to 1% to 3%, now 11%. Then from there to 13%. Now 13% derivation. And some people think it is too much. We think that is not fair because at the time when we were producing other things, it was a different regime. We've never said that we should take it all. We said this is one federation, let's share, but let there be fairness. When they share now, after states collect, they come to local governments. Bayelsa gets 8%, Kano gets 44 units. How fair is that? So that vitiates fundamentally.
Beyond resources, insecurity has fueled another demand for state police. Some believe it will allow states to secure their people more effectively than a centralized force.
Insecurity in the southeast, the southwest, the northwest, northeast are different, and you must bring about solution that tackles it. And in bringing about solutions using data, but also taking trends from the state, from the region, and having regional cooperative between different states that shares borders. So I believe that this would help to decentralize power.
Nigeria has tried to address the concerns of federalism before, with 3 major national conferences held in 1994, 2005 and 2014, all recommending restructuring. However, the idea seems to be picked up again as the National Assembly seeks to amend the 1999 Constitution, promising an all-inclusive process.
As Speaker, I pledge that we will take your contribution seriously and consider the bills with diligence, fairness, and urgency. We will engage the state assemblies respectfully and transparently to secure their concurrence.
For many Nigerians, true federalism is not just a political debate. It's about fairness, accountability, and the chance to unlock the country's full potential. However, until reforms move from rhetoric to reality, Nigeria's pursuit of true federalism remains an unfinished business.
Thank you so much, everyone. Dr. Usman Bugaje and Mr. Femi Falana, eminent Nigerians, and giving their thoughts about our structure and the way forward. Before I get back to the conversation with them, let me allow you to listen to the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, one person who is leading the conversation around the constitutional amendment. And here are some of the thoughts as to our independence and in the middle of the constitutional amendment and that the significance. Again, listen to the Deputy Speaker.
The Constitution is the architecture of our federation. And like any living document, it must evolve with the needs of its people. Constitutional review offers the platform to do this thoughtfully, inclusively, and without destabilizing the federation. Take the legislative list as an example. The exclusive list contains a wide range of critical national matters, such as defense, foreign affairs, customs, currency, aviation, mineral resources, and so on. While the concurrent list covers areas where both the federal and state governments can legislate. Through constitutional review, some of these powers have already been devolved, such as railways, prisons, electricity generation, amongst others, allowing states to innovate independently. In the same spirit, I'm sponsoring the state police bill because security is ultimately local and empowering states to take greater responsibility for policing is natural.
Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Okeze Kalu, on the roles, responsibilities of the National Assembly, the Constitution, and the issues of amendment. He's also spoke about issues relating to our federalism, some of the exclusive conversation you will find on our website and, of course, on our YouTube page. Let me get the closing thought of my guests tonight, Dr. Osman Bugaje and Mr. Falana. 65 years, that's a milestone. For us to be able to say really that we are moving forward, what do you think? And the political leadership of this country has to take the lead, isn't it? Where do we go from here? A lot of people who have not visited China don't know how beautiful that country is. Those guys are way ahead. The Western America have been left behind. China...
And remember, yes, China is not practicing democracy.
Absolutely.
Western liberal democracy.
Absolutely.
They have their own kind of democracy.
Okay. But that's why we are asking the question, what suits us?
That's the point.
Yeah.
But
what suits us?
You see, the mental frame, needs to be decolonized for us to look inwards. Because we have in African history, a recent African history, where politics, the size of Western Europe, have been run for a whole century with a very effective administrative machinery. It was just disrupted by European colonization. And we have a lot of these rich resources. We have got a lot of literature, books, open books written. You go to the UNESCO Center for Documentation in Timbuktu, you find large resources of literature on law, on politics, on economy, on so many things, written by African scholars. So we have a lot of resources. But many elite who have trained in the West are not even aware. And this is part of the colonial education, so that we should keep looking up to the West. So we have to do that. I mean, there are 3 things that I think are very important, and I think we need to have the hope that, the case of Nigeria is not entirely unique, and it's not something that is not redeemable. We can deal with it, we can sort it out, but I think, like I said, the first thing is the elite need to come together and agree on what country they want to build.
Give me a name of one person you think that can convene it, because I want us to have decisive...
We don't have to have one convener, we can have a group of conveners. Even the people we have brought today, Femi is there, listening, Clement Nwanko, Riwani.
Yourself.
I'm prepared to be part of it. Yeah. There are quite a number of people.
Let's start the elite consensus
discussing.
Mr. Falana, Mr. Falana, the challenge is on you guys. And the reason why we have invited you, because we know that you are one of the brightest stars and one of the brains that we have in the country.
This is one thing. This is very important.
And we need to do it urgently, isn't it?
2 other things that we need to do. Yeah. They are critical for the next 2 years. One, this idea of, this model of finding one person and getting a deputy for him and raise the resources for him to become the president of this country, we have done that more than 3 times, 4 times, 5. It has failed. I don't want us to repeat failure. We need to insist that and you don't need to amend any constitution, maybe the party constitution. We need to have a collegiate leadership. Anybody who wants to run as the president for this country must create a collegiate leadership. He must get from every zone in this country 2 or 3 most competent Nigerians. Because the task ahead of us is not politics, it's fixing this country. And therefore we need these competent people. So that when you go to campaign, you are going to show us what team do you have. And there must be an arrangement that will commit you to working with this team. Nobody stops you from having your own personal secretary, personal whatever. But look, when it comes to fixing this country, you have to draw from those that are known to be competent. So we need to change the model, and we can do it for this 2027 election. The next thing is we have to make sure that the elections that are coming are not going to be, because we suspect that this government is not going to allow elections to take place.
The Tinubu government?
No, they will do a sham, a campaign, to show. But they are not likely, because we have seen what has happened in Kaduna in the last by-election that we have seen around the country. You are waiting, citizens are waiting with their ballot, with their voters card to cast their votes. The ballots were not there at all, and as they were waiting, they were just tuning the radio and listening results, including that of their polling booth. This has happened. So the point is, we have to be prepared as a nation. Not if elections do not take place, we don't want to go back to the courts because we know what the courts are. If it means that we have to win or lose this on the streets of this country, we must do so. But 2027, we must not allow this sham, this rubbish to continue. The whole country has to rise up to this. And this is what we need to do.
Mr. Falana, let me get your closing argument on this one. Where do we go from here? Time is not on our side. Time is not on our side.
The chief speaker, I think, or legislator who just spoke now, has announced to us that they are once again amending the Constitution. There's nothing we can do about it. They're going to amend the Constitution. But the most important one and the most controversial is the question of policing the country. Members of the ruling class have now agreed. I think they've almost reached a consensus that they have to decentralize the Nigerian police force. If they are going to do that, again, as I said earlier, we must find out why we abandon regional police so that enough conditionalities are put in place to avert the danger of one person or two controlling the police in the state. We must have a police council that will be made up of representatives of organized groups in each of the states. So what the government would do is to fund the state police. But in terms of control, we must be very careful that we don't transfer police powers in Abuja to the constituent years. The other point is that on electoral reform, again, the National Assembly is toying with the idea of amending the electoral. Number one, what happened in 2023 was that INEC promised that we're going to have use of voters' machine, which was likely done. Two, election results will be transmitted to the central server of INEC. We were told that there was some technical issue. This time around, we must put a mechanism in place that will eliminate such technical issues in our courts. The law must be amended in a way, contrary to what the court said, that transmission of results is optional. This time around, we must amend the law to make it compulsory. Two, we must reduce the involvement of judges in our electoral system. They must decide the winners of election. Judges are not suited to decide winners of election because they only decide based on evidence produced before them. But happily, when Justice Woes passed on this year, President Bola Tinubu paid glowing tribute to him, that commended him for the outstanding, comprehensive electoral reforms. What are the areas that have not been implemented? The choice of the chair of INEC, then members of the Electoral Commission, as well as resident Electoral Commission, resident electoral commissioners. The panel recommended that they should be appointed by adverts. Advertisement will be put out. People will apply. The National Judicial Council will shortlist the best 3 candidates for each position and then send to the president, who will send the list to the Senate for approval and appointment. Secondly, all election petitions must be concluded before the inauguration of incoming government. And lastly, and most importantly, we must adopt proportional representation with respect to our elections. The question of winner takes all must not arise.
All right.
If you've got 20%, 30%, you must have people on that basis in government.
All right.
Vulnerable people with disabilities must be in our parliament. Special place must be given to women, youths.
All right. Mr.
So
Falana.
that we can democratize country. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Dr. Usman Bugaje, political activist and a former federal lawmaker. Thank you so much on this special day. I know it's a difficult one, getting all of you together in one place to talk about this, but it's important for our nation. And thank you so much. Our nation is grateful for your thoughts tonight and the insight. Thanks so much indeed. We're also very grateful for China's television. Thank you for being our company on this very important day. Happy birthday, Nigeria, and a happy 65th Independence Anniversary. On behalf of the team here in Lagos and across the globe, working for China's television, I'm Shion Wakin Balwe. Happy Independence and good night, everyone.